Hi, I'm Justin Mormon,
And I'm Katie Thornton, and this is the Re-Education of Schools podcast.
where we have open, honest conversations about how to better understand social-emotional learning, trauma-informed care, the whys behind student behavior, and how to help kids navigate it all as they go through school and life. All right, welcome back to our next episode. This episode, actually, we have Congressman Greg Landsman. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about the state of public education. We're really excited to have him on. As always, as you listen to this episode, as you think about this episode, share it with somebody. We always appreciate any kind of reviews you give, good, bad, ugly, any kind of feedback. We always love it. And I don't know if we always love it, but we will hear it and share it with people who might be interested in specifically what Congressman Landsman might say. We're going to jump in. We know his time is pretty important. And so I'm going to let Katie give a quick introduction and we'll jump into questions.
Yeah, we're excited to welcome Congressman Greg Landsman with us today. Congressman Landsman is a former educator himself and has led Southwest Ohio with moderate, fair, realistic, and straightforward leadership. With ongoing changes in public education, we are thankful for Congressman Landsman's guidance and wisdom to support educators today. And I just personally, this is always like my spin of introductions, but I find your information that you put out for us to be so comforting because I feel like it's realistic, it's straightforward, you explain things really well. I feel like you're very moderate with your approach, and I have found you to be really refreshing, especially this past year in politics. So I'm super excited to have you on here and to hear a little bit about what's going on with public ed. So thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Greg, I told you we'd jump right in, and that's what we'll do. I know you haven't seen your family yet today, so we're going to get you going.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about why public education is important to you.
Oh, wow. So my parents were teachers and I taught. My kids are in public schools. It's the thing that it's one of the most important things that allows everybody, no matter the circumstances into which you were born, to be successful if in fact you get it right. And I'm a big believer that public education should start way earlier. And this is going to sound crazy, but because of brain development and the belief that public education should follow brain development, I believe that public education should include a high quality prenatal care and making sure that every single expecting mother has access to and gets really good prenatal care, because a healthy birth makes a huge difference in terms of how well that young person is going to do, developmentally and when they get to school. And then quality childcare in preschool. I'd even argue that paid family leave so that parents can be there, to in those early, few weeks and months that make a huge difference in terms of whether or not that child's, developing, successfully. And but if you put all of that in play and kids get a really solid education despite those upbringing, despite some circumstances back home, which could be any number of bad things or difficult things, then you've got a shot. And you want to have a country, ultimately a world, but certainly you think about the United States, we want a country that has as many people succeeding as humanly possible. That is the best thing you can do for all categories, including certainly the economy. Everyone succeeds, and if that's your goal, you want to have the strongest, most robust, most accessible public education system known to man.
Yeah, I think that's great. Katie and I had the opportunity a few years ago. Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, I was thinking of the same thing.
we were in invited to come and talk about or be a part of a discussion about where some of the county, I believe, funds could be used to help um, kids coming into elementary school. So it was specifically like how kind of what you were saying, Greg, like with students preschool, what would we say at an elementary level was super important to do. And one of the things I think that we echoed over and over again didn't necessarily work out. Uh, I don't know that they listened to us, but one of the things that we echoed over and over again is like the earlier you start, the better, and really providing support for young parents, young individuals who are having kids. Incredibly, incredibly important. And if they had the education and the support to be able to one understand the brain development like you mentioned, but then also to have the support to actually do the things that help with that. It's one thing to have the knowledge if you don't have a support system around you.
Correct.
So you got to have the knowledge to know what you're supposed to be doing, but by golly, you got to have a support system around you to be able to do that. Parenting is hard, no matter who you are, and it's very difficult.
So hard.
And it just no matter. I mean, you got great kids, you got tough kids. It doesn't matter. It's very difficult, and if you don't have a support system around you,
Yeah.
um, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you really.
90% of all brain development happens, prenatally through the first 5 years. So we spend something like 90% of all of our money on public education after that.
Yeah.
Yes, I was saying the same thing. We're doing reactive work when we really should be doing preventative work, and what a change and impact that would have if we would do it on the front end
Correct.
instead of doing the stuff on the back end.
But, this is, that ultimately should be part of the change that our generation achieves, is fundamentally fixing the education system, not by constantly hammering away at these schools and our teachers, but by investing in the parts of the system that have gone underinvested for as long as, well, forever,
Yeah.
and have caused all of these issues. Fix that.
Yeah, well, and I think we talk a lot about on here, and partly just stuff as we've learned. And you've brought up the brain development several times already. Yeah, as we've learned a lot more, we're catching up to the science now, and the understanding now of how the brains really work. So much better than what we did 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Yeah,
We're
it's true.
learning
That's
more and
true.
more and
Yeah.
more. And so how quickly are we going to decide as districts, as states, as
States.
the
Yeah.
whole the federal government, whatever it is, how quickly are we going to decide that we need to make changes based off of the new information? And I think that's the key. And I think the districts, the states that decide to make shifts based off of this new information, they're the ones that are going to be, you hate to say ahead. I think they're the ones that are going to catch up to where we actually should be. But that's hard to do, and it's hard to change. Probably better than I do. It's hard to change things um, overall, and it's not an easy thing
It
to do.
takes time.
Yeah,
You got to stay at it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Consistency, right? A
yeah.
consistency. All right. So right now, educators are, a lot of educators are worried about different things, about changes that are happening, both whether it's federally, state level, in education. There's a lot of moving parts in education right now from a government standpoint. Some of the changes are promising, they're good. Some it doesn't seem like it really makes a lot of sense to people quite yet. Uh, what can you say to educators who are listening, primarily who's listening to this, educators, right? What are some things you can say to hopefully calm some fears, or tell us about some of the current changes we can anticipate in the future?
Yeah, I'm worried. I mean, I'm very nervous about the way this administration is handling public education funding. The funding that has been approved by Congress. The administration is holding, and they're going to take a case by case approach, which suggests that schools are going to have to do something in order to get their money that we approved, and so. I mean, I think teachers should just light up their member of Congress and say like, the government needs to give us our money. It's not their money; it's our money, and it belongs to our schools and our children and our teachers. And don't ever do this again. So that's one. Two, I think, we all have to be, in this together and push for the things that we know our students need, which is for many students, they just need more time. They need some, extra help after school. They need summer school stuff. They need to get caught up. A lot of these kids from COVID, and we have to be able to give our schools the resources to, provide them with some extra learning, opportunities. And even if they're not caught up, I mean, even if they are caught up, like, we just don't do as much education work. We don't fund as much as other countries. I mean, we're at 165, 170 days per year versus, the countries whose, economies are going to, get in front of ours if we're not careful, because they're at 200 days, or even or more. And then, as I said, you know, earlier, like, we have got to invest in every single child immediately, not when they get to kindergarten or first grade, immediately.
Yeah, and how when you talk about funding, this isn't a question that we usually send guest questions ahead of time, so feel free, answer however you will. You're used to quick
I am.
answers and
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Like the funding of schools, I feel like that is such a thing that is a constant worry for teachers. I've learned after being in a district, especially more as districts try to pass levies and things like that. Um, do you do you find that there is much conversation ever about how schools are generally funded
I
and
mean, at
how
the
it
state
doesn't maybe
level,
land on that?
yeah, I mean, locally and at the state level, I mean, federally, the federal share is small. Um, but the states that I do better have a bigger state share, right? The schools rely less on local property tax, and, levies, right? Indiana, I think, is 60-40 state, and here in Ohio, it's the opposite, 40-60. Um, but, and I'm a big believer that the state share should be higher, and state income taxpayers should be, doing a lot of the heavy lifting as opposed to local property taxpayers. Um, but I also believe that these schools should be able to, one, they should have the resources they need to expand school, or when school starts. So, add obviously all day kindergarten, 1 year, one year of preschool, hopefully 2 years of preschool. And I think schools should have the flexibility to shave off that senior year if they feel like they don't need it. I would rather have, kids get 2 years of quality preschool and be able to graduate, after the 11th grade, and to pack more into a couple years of high school, so that they can go and then go to college, and they can, or go to a trade school or whatever, get whatever the training is that they want sooner. But, you know, that should be a local school district deal, and obviously that's tough when you're talking about colleges. But, like, a lot of these kids who are going, and getting into these colleges are getting in their junior year anyway. So
Yeah.
I just like but we're spending 15 grand per kid in that senior year. That would pay for 2 years of quality preschool, or at least a year.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about too was there's a big push for private schools, right? And privatization and school choice. Can you talk a little bit about that? It seems a little bit inequitable in terms of funding. Kids that are going to private schools are getting more money than we're paying for the students to attend a public school. Is there a big push? We're seeing, I guess, educators a little bit fearful that we're moving to like a privatized model.
Yeah, I mean,
Where,
I think it's a legitimate fear. I mean, you're seeing it, so it's like it is happening. And this administration is clearly a private school, uh, not maybe at first sort of they really do want to, I think, undermine the public school system by starving it, which is what they're trying to do by withholding these dollars. I think part of what has to happen is that if private schools are going to get more and more public money, then they need to be held to the same standard, like put them in the same system. But I think it's it is a pretty good strategy. If you want to kill public education, it's a good strategy to say, okay, we're going to have more and more of your money leave for private schools, and we're going to just beat you up all the time. We're going to constantly, grade you and tell you you're doing terrible and tell all the people in your community that you're awful. And that's a like 1-2 punch, right? And so like I don't want to see dollars leave our public school system, and so we have to fight for those dollars. I also want to make sure that if there are public dollars going to private schools, that they need to be held to the same standard. Like if you're going to grade my kid's school, grade all the schools. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the
Yeah.
grading to me is just a way of shitting all over public education so that they can, get more people, more demand for private schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just for anybody who doesn't know that, listening, maybe that's not an educator. Basically, private schools are not evaluated by the state level. They're not accountable through any state testing, and so
They do whatever they
there's
want.
they can accept or decline students. So the accessibility for things are different. So it's like the whole package it's just a very different playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears just a little bit. We're pretty passionate about trauma-informed schools here,
Yeah.
and using the science that we do know, and the changes that we have seen over the last handful of years that we kind of referenced earlier, and actually trying to implement that stuff. Certainly not saying we're perfect at it, but we try to do those things. And we know that a topic that you're pretty passionate about is preparing young men for the future. Can you share what you are seeing, and what kind of some of those outcomes are you hope for? Talk a little bit about like that mentoring aspect that I know is a
For
big part
boys.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading a lot about. I mean, we have a 13-year-old boy, so we're living it too. But we've been reading a lot about sort of educational outcomes in general for young boys and young men, and but educational outcomes in particular. And it's really interesting science. We're just learning more. It's just like brain development, and that we learn that this is not the case for every boy or every girl, but boys tend to develop a little bit later up here, and so that means that we may be less likely to be ready for school. And so I think any kid who's assessed not ready for school at that kindergarten assessment moment should get an extra year of preschool. And if that's what the parent wants, but we should pay for an extra year of preschool. And and I think you'll have boys and girls that get an extra year of preschool, but it'll be a lot more boys probably based on the research I've seen. I'm a big believer in Montessori education for all kids. It's just also really great for boys because we're antsy, and like we got to be doing stuff, and like we learn by doing. And we're a little slower on vocabulary. Girls are so much better at vocabulary than us, and so much of the early grades are like it's a lot of words. And I just the Montessori approach is go mess around, go learn at your own pace. There's a lot of partner stuff, and I just partnering up. And so I love to see us transition to mostly Montessori. I think it's just good. It's better for kids to be able to get up and move around and learn in a project based, at your own pace sort of rate, as opposed to like, I just the idea of sitting in classrooms all day is like, it's just so old. And like, I, I feel so terrible for students like that. It's just, it doesn't work. Like adults can't do it. Like, can you imagine if if every person was told, every adult was told tomorrow that moving forward, they would be sitting in a desk at a really small desk all day. They could go up and go to the bathroom. They'll have these 5-minute breaks, but they'll be at a desk the whole day. They can't move around. They would like lose their minds. Like it would just be, and the idea that we make kids do this when we know that, and it obviously requires training teachers differently, so it's not going to happen overnight. I'm just, to me, that is a better way for all kids, particularly boys. And then I just think boys need to see more, you know, more of themselves, selves out, in school. So like, I think we should be recruiting and encouraging more men to be teachers. I mean, it's just like everybody needs to see themselves in society, and for the most part, most boys don't see a lot of male teachers, and they need both. That's all.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I think too the added part of that is how many students now don't see um male uh male role models really at all, even around home and out in
And
the
you only need
community.
one. Like the crazy thing is like I don't need a million people to like look up to us. Like one person saves a kid. Like one person who's just like, no, I believe in you, and I'm gonna invest in you, and and I'm gonna be a part of your life for a chunk of time, even if it's 1 year. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, I think just that lack of male, adult male presence. I know specifically for boys, certainly, but for the female students as well. It's such an important thing to see, you know, hopefully good quality adult males that are people that come through for you. I
Yeah.
think that
I
that's
think that's it. That's that right. They're just reliable. I also, the one thing I want to add is like I do think we have to start to incorporate technology and and social media into the curriculum. Meaning like when I had home ec, in the '90s, the late '80s, it was like house, it was like how to do your laundry, which it was awesome. I like, I'm glad I know how to do my laundry, how to cook, how to sew. I'm the only person in my house that can sew. I'm not great at it, but I can sew. um and like, you know what, I want all of my children to have that. I want that to be in part of the curriculum. But it's also true that you have to know how to like be on social media and handle it. And there's no education around it right now. Like our kids get nothing in turn. Like my kids get like my philosophy on social media and my wife's philosophy on social media, but there isn't like, we do sex ed, which is great. We do other stuff about, living in the world, but we don't teach kids how to use the internet responsibly. And I think that's something we should take on.
yeah. Yeah, I think we're always playing catch up a little bit,
Yeah.
aren't we? In schools, it
Which would
takes a
be
little.
it would be a cool that, but then that's like a cool thing to do with kids. It's like build out the curriculum with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple really good things that you said. As a kindergarten teacher by trade for many, many years, for about 15 years, I did that. I think the frustration coming from early childhood education is that we've gone to a very scripted curriculum and play-based
Yeah.
education. As you were speaking of, I have a big Reggio influence, which is very similar to Montessori. Nature-based education, play-based education. We know that if kids are playing, the brain synapses, it takes
Particularly
20 to,
boys.
yes,
Particularly boys.
they learn faster. You want somebody to retain and build those new neural pathways. Play is the way to do it. The research is clear on that. And we've basically taken out of all play, which has taken out a lot of vocabulary and communication, and those social soft skills, which kids are really struggling with. And I could agree with you more about the having more males. We're very lucky. Our building has a lot of males, staff
Awesome.
members. Yeah, and
That's
it
not
is.
luck. That's not luck.
Yeah.
Somebody's working on it.
Yeah, we really have a ton of male staff members in our building, and it is really awesome to see really great, compassionate men working with children and doing an amazing job. Just it's been a real highlight, I think. And then I think your third thing you point to social media. I think we know the brain research is really clear on suicide rates and mental health, especially within middle schoolers. And we are kind of not spending intentional time working with that age population to make sure that they have the awareness of the damages that it's actually doing to our kids. So a lot of good things to unpack in what you just said, for
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So ultimately, for educators, it can be really tough. Just day to day, year to year. Second it seems like you're somebody's hero who's saving the day. The next minute, it's specifically your fault. Somebody's kids maybe having an issue that they're having or up
By
against
the
a
way,
problem
that's
they're
you
having.
just described being a parent of two teenagers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm either like crushing it or I am the root of
yeah,
all
you're the worst, right?
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old myself, and so, yeah, every stage is different, right? But it's an interesting one that we're entering into now, it seems like.
Yeah.
But, what would you say to educators to kind of keep them encouraged,
Oh.
to kind of ride that wave?
What's this what I say to myself, which is like, you do the best you can every day and you don't take any one day too seriously, right? Um, you look for those silver linings in every moment in every situation. And I think you can let yourself be irritated and pissed off about things that aren't right. And then just sort of get back in there. I mean, it's hard work. And but it is life-changing work. It's the most important work. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. Arguably the hardest thing is I remember when that bell would ring every day, just thinking like I wouldn't have lasted another minute. I mean, if you're really teaching, I didn't think it's just like just do the best you can every day. That's it. And then just be as kind as possible to yourself and other people, whether they're kind in back or not. It just feels better.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't practice, I like that. That's what I say to myself because I have to work on those things.
Yeah. Well, it's a constant reminder. I think hopefully everybody's given themselves. We can all stand to keep in mind that everybody that we're interacting with, right? They're going through their own stuff.
Yeah,
They're doing their own thing, and
good.
and any kind of extra kind of grace and understanding that we can offer goes quite a long way.
Especially if they're upset, like something's, like they're not in a good place. You know what I mean? Like something's happening. So
Yeah. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, I want to be mindful of your time. We really appreciate you coming on with us. We always go over what's something that we want people to remember as we finish out the podcast. I'll let you go last. Actually, I'll make Katie go first and give you some time to think. But so, Katie, what's one thing you'd want people to walk away with from this podcast remembering?
I think it's really important to remember that we do have people in the political arena that are there advocating for us. I have been following Congressman Landsman for a while, and I think it's going to take all of us together to make change and advocacy, and that we do have people out there speaking for us and listening and giving us a voice as educators. And I just can't thank Congressman Landsman enough for coming on today. And I encourage people to follow him on TikTok and social media. I think a lot of what he says makes complete sense, and it explains things very clearly for people that maybe aren't quite understanding what's going on right now. So that's
very
my
good.
takeaway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congressman Landsman, what would you say? What's your takeaway as we
I
end this episode?
I think the reminder about how important play is, like learning through play, is just better. It's just better than anything else. And we got to figure out a way to make that happen, and just give teachers the flexibility, the training and flexibility to do that at all levels. It just always is better.
Wow. Yeah, I think for me, ultimately, I was just thinking people are going to be, this episode will initially air. People are starting probably to think about going back to school, maybe still pushing it off a little bit, maybe not thinking about it quite yet. And that's okay. Wait as long as you need. But before you're getting ready to start. But as you do start to think about going back to school and you're out there listening to this, I hope you do remember that all the academic stuff is crazy important. Obviously, we talk about this a lot on the podcast. Very important stuff. But really, the difference maker, you in all likelihood, you're probably a good teacher of academics. You probably are very, very workable. There are probably people better than you, might be people worse than you, but you're probably doing a great job. You're probably doing just good enough to teach academics. The thing that's going to make you stand out and the thing that's going to be really life changing for kids is to also make sure that you're being a really just good person in their life, a really good adult that's coming alongside them in their good days, coming alongside them in their crappy days, coming alongside them in your good days. And obviously, depending on the age of kids you got, appropriately sharing how you're handling your good and your bad days, helping them see that you're a person. And this is how we go through life. This is what we need to do. So much of your job has little to do with teaching academics. And I understand you're getting paid to teach academics, but so little of your job really is about that. So much of your job is about teaching kids how to be a person and be a person with the kids around, the other students around them, and with you as an adult, how to model that. Take that part seriously and let yourself, I say, let yourself off the hook about the academics. Don't stress yourself out beyond beyond imagination about getting through every single thing that somebody has told you you've got to get through.
I think
Take that.
just real quick,
Yep.
if you build that relationship with a kid, I had a teacher tell me this on my first day. Um, she said in this told a really wonderful story, which I'll spare you. But if you get that connection going with a kid, and that kid's like, oh, I like this dude, they will go out of their way to learn whatever it is you're teaching them.
Yeah. It's a
100%
complete
accurate.
difference maker. Yeah, complete difference maker. So, well, Congressman Landsman, we appreciate you being on. We're going to hit the 4 o'clock mark. We did it. We did
We
it.
did it. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And if you're out there listening, again, like this, share it. Get into somebody's hands. Maybe needs a little bit of encouragement to know that it's not just us out here alone. That even if it feels far off at times, there are people that are making decisions and pushing for decisions that are listening to us in the education world and that are hopefully fighting consistently for us. Be encouraged by that. And as always, let's go out there and do the work.
Let's go do it.
Thanks, everyone.